You're listening to Back Chat, the podcast that takes you backstage for a chat every Friday on all major platforms. Recorded in Dublin, Ireland, and broadcast around the world. Join Michael O'Reilly and his guest weekly to discuss the entertainment realm and all of its secrets with leading musicians, actors, and entertainers. Before this episode begins, follow us on Instagram at back.chatpodcast and check out our Facebook. But for now, you're listening to Back Chat.
Hello and welcome back to Back Chat, the podcast that takes you backstage for chat every week on all major platforms. First of all, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's supporting the podcast over on Instagram, Facebook, and on all the platforms it's being streamed on. I really appreciate it. But I want to get to this week's guest. He went from jamming out in his shed to jamming out in Croke Park. His band Wild Youth have supported Westlife, played alongside Dermot Kennedy and Mumford & Sons in Malahide Castle. They claimed the highest new entry to the charts last year with their first EP, The Last Goodbye. Now their new single, Next to You, has almost 500,000 streams on Spotify. When he's not in Dublin, he's in London, and when he's not in London, he's on Ryan Tubridy's Late Late Show stage with the lads. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Conor O'Donoghue from Wild Youth. Conor, what's the crack?
What's going on?
All is good. If you can take me back to the very start of Wild Youth, how did it come about?
Wild Youth came about. Me and Dave have kind of been friends for years. We grew up together, always kind of played music together. And it kind of came about from that. I suppose one day just deciding that we wanted to set up a band. We kind of tried previous bands before and, you know, certain things hadn't clicked. And then we decided to set up a band and it was just kind of the two of us. We had actually done like an acoustic. We had a friend who had like an acoustic charity gig on and they asked us to come and play a few covers. And then someone approached us and was like, I want to manage you guys. And we were like, we're not a band. We were just like two friends. Then we did another gig and someone approached us and they were like, we want to manage it. And we were like, this is weird. Like this is twice in 1 week. So we were like, maybe we should make it a band. But we were like, if we want to do it as a band, we wanted it to be a band, if you get me. So then we obviously recruited good old Callum and
Ed, yeah. And actually, touching on when you recruited Ed and Callum, what was that like, the process? Like, how did that come to fruition with those guys? Did you know them or did you hold an audition kind of thing or what was the...
No auditions. They're too good for auditions. Me and David, like, kind of growing up, used to sneak into like gigs with fake IDs and stuff. And Callum used to be in another band, and Ed was in another band too. And they were actually two bands that we used to go to. And I kind of like heard that the bands had disbanded. And I used to always love watching Callum when he played drums live because he had such energy. And then I always just thought Ed was like such an intelligent guitar player. I always loved how he played. And reached out to Cal, and Cal, being the person he is, jumped straight in, no questions asked. He was in from the go. Ed was a bit more reserved. He's like, let me like hear some songs, blah, blah, blah. So I played him some songs. And then, from the like about 45 seconds into one of the first songs that he heard, he's like, okay, I'm in. And then from there it was like, it's a song that no one's ever heard. Just like a real rough writing demo that I've done. But thankfully he loved it. I don't think it even had lyrics. It just had like a melody idea. And then, it kind of from there, we all kind of met up and hung out because it's quite important as like being in a band that, you know, you all get on really well because you're going to spend a lot of time together if it works. And we got on incredibly well, and then we went to a rehearsal room and we rehearsed for the first time, and it was like we've been a band for years. It was amazing. And we're very, very lucky. It all kind of clicked.
Staying on kind of at the very start of the band and when you guys just started practicing together, what was like the first song or the first performance that you did where you were like, this just feels right, like this is the perfect kind of this is the item I was looking for, or you were looking for with Dave?
probably a song. I wrote this song. It was called Chemicals. It's probably like one of the first songs I wrote for Wild Youth. And I remember I got like, we're just like out in my shed all the time. And I didn't want to do shows until like what you said, until we figured out what we were and who we were and where we wanted to go and what we wanted to be. But I wrote this song and I remember it got like this kind of, I don't know what it was. It was a really cool synth I had. It's almost like a drum pad or something, but I was like messing. I was like playing the keyboard and like had this like drum pad. And I remember Ed came over and he was like playing guitar like around this song that I'd written, and then he just started playing this guitar, and I was like, "Oh my God, you're the guitarist I always dreamt I had in my band."
Okay.
So it just felt cool. And then Cal had kind of been in, like, first time we met Cal, we were like, okay, he's like, and then I think we spent a lot of time kind of figuring out songs and figuring out sounds and making sure everything felt right. And then I remember it was really weird. I remember because we got management then, and they kind of came back and they're like, "Oh, we've got you a gig. You're going to play Isle of Wight."
That was like one of your first gigs, the Isle of Wight Festival.
Yeah, but which is so weird when I think about it now, because like, you know, such a cool festival.
And what did you have out at the time? Nothing. So it was just from.
But we kind of like, we had written demos and we had been in the studio and we kind of filtered the demos out, and then we got management, and our management sent it on to like a couple of bookers, and they were interested, and they were like, "Oh, let us like get you a couple of shows." And then they came back to like, "Do you want to play the Isle of Wight?" We're like,
yes.
We played to about 2 people because obviously nobody knew who we were, but still it was an amazing experience. And I remember just that day, everything just felt so good. It was the most comfortable I'd ever felt on a stage.
At the Isle of Wight.
Yeah. And it was kind of like, we'd never plan our live shows, but it was like there was this energy from the stage. Everyone was just individual in their own ways, but when it kind of came together, it all kind of worked, I think.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
And back to kind of one of my favorite songs you guys have out is All or Nothing. And I think one of the weirdest parts about my experience with that song is mostly through the music video, because a mutual friend of ours, Jay, and his girlfriend Alex are in the music video. How did that come about? Where like that whole concept, and even having Jay and Alex on it, because I think it's one of her only things she has doing acting. Like, that's not really her beat, you know what I mean?
I know, but this is actually quite funny, right? So I'd written All or Nothing, and it was about so it is what it is, right? The song. But anyway, I remember we were like, "Oh, we want to do a music video," and the music video is about people who are together and then get separated, and it's like, you know, you drive all night to get to them, kind of thing, kind of concept, you know.
Yeah. And
wanted to do a music video where it was like all the amazing times that those people had together, and then the other side of it was them being apart. So like it would go to like this fairy, like dreamland kind of thing, and that was when they were together. And then the sadness was when they were kind of apart, like when you see like Jay kind of walking by himself, or Alex doing it in the park or whatever. But the funny thing was like, I need to get a couple who act. So I got on to Jay and I was like, "Would you and Alex do it?" Because I thought Alex for some reason was an actress.
Okay, yeah. She could get away with it.
But they did it, and then they did the video, and they obviously, I thought they nailed it.
They did.
And I was like, and Alex was like, "Thanks so much for trusting me. Like, I've never done anything like that before." And I was like, "What do you mean you've never?" I was like, "Are you not an actress?" And she was like, "No." I was like, "Oh God." But yeah, I think it worked out.
It worked out really
well. Not a bad
well.
first music video.
No, not at all. And it reminds me of Long Time No See.
Okay.
A bit. It's obviously the song's a bit different, but it's like a Wild Youth video. You've established that they tell a story. You know what I mean? I feel like, I know that, especially with those two, you're kind of following the story. And I listened to Long Time No See when it was, you know, on the radio. I did a bit of work experience in FM 104, and it was on the radio all the time, and I loved it. It was such an upbeat song. But then I watched the video, and it's not, and it's kind of, there's a few sad bits of that song. Can you?
Yeah.
Is that a style that you go for with Wild Youth? Because when you read the lyrics, sometimes they don't match the beat. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, this is a bit of an upsetting one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think they're all kind of upsetting. I'm quite an emotional person, so I think lyrically it's always quite emotional. It's always from a personal place, and uh, sometimes a place of hurt or, whatever it is. But I think, it was always kind of a conscious decision to not make it all kind of doom and gloom, and, so to try and disguise sometimes the emotional and upset in the lyrics through upbeat music.
Yeah.
So that was like always kind of our MO. Was like at the start, it's like sad songs that make you dance, and it's like even All or Nothing was written originally as like a ballad on a piano, and Long Time No See was written as like a ballad on a piano.
Yeah.
But then it's transformed into this like energetic kind of band song, and yeah. So I think it's quite important, like as you said, when you hear it on the radio and you you're like, oh, this is great. It's like Long Time No See, and you're like
Yeah.
dancing
Yeah.
away, and it's
Huge.
like, but then when you listen or when you watch the video, what I always wanted to do is try and tell the story, and for us, kind of not to be in it, but let the story of what the song is actually about be told then through the music video, so that when people see it, it connects them in a kind of different way. If you get me.
Yeah. Like that's exactly how I felt when I realized what the songs are about, you know. And what's it like
Yeah.
when you're performing them and people are singing your songs back to you? What's that feeling like? Especially with those songs, is it weird? Do you ever think like this is
I
so?
always think, yeah. Sometimes I'm like, if the person who this song is about saw that this place where it's all singing the lyrics, like, would they come back to me? No, I'm only joking. uh, no, yeah, it is weird. I think when you write a song from a moment in time or a place where you felt such hurt or such sadness, and then you turn it into this something that becomes a song, to then go to such a place of happiness when you're on a stage with like your best friends and you're playing a song in front of all these beautiful people that come to your shows and they're singing it all back, and it's like, wow, to think that I had to go that low to get this,
Yeah.
to then be on this stage, which then transcended into people then liking this piece of sad information that I had in my life, to then them singing it back. So it is a weird thing, but it is it always kind of gives me hope that I can kind of overcome things,
Yeah. And that's, I
through
think,
moment of weakness comes great opportunity,
yeah, and that's the investment, I suppose. Especially, I know you've written a lot of the Wild Youth songs, you know, pretty much from a place of that upset, and there is it's probably an upsetting thing to do sometimes, to sit down and write those songs.
Yeah,
I suppose
very
seeing those
therapeutic
moments.
too.
Do you find a lot of therapy in writing?
Yeah, I find sometimes if I can just get it out and like into something that then like, I don't know, makes people happy or people like, or that I can listen back to, and it kind of helps me move on from situations, because it's hard. uh like there's lots of times where like it's not a very normal life that we live. I think I'm one of those people that even if I'm having like the shittest morning, someone's like, how are you? I'm like, I'm fine, and I just kind of
Yeah.
always like disguise how I feel a lot of the time. So I think sometimes when I go into the studio or when I go to write, it's the one time where I can actually allow myself to just flood everything out that I've kind of felt. And that's why I think it's therapeutic, because I think it's always important to try and get it out in some way, shape or form. So that's what I mean when it's like when I go into a studio, it's almost like going into a therapy session for me. It's like everything that I've bottled up, pretending that I'm okay all the time, I can just literally flood out on the table and try and turn into a song.
Yeah. And when you approach the lads with a new song, or you say, I've been writing something, and would you like to hear it, lads, or whatever, and you do play it for them, are they ever kind of like, fucking hell, what's going on? Like, I didn't know,
Yeah.
you didn't,
Yeah.
they didn't know you're there.
Yeah. There has been times, but also I think they're the one kind of group of people that I do know, because we're together all the time and we do everything together. Like we see the ups and downs of each other's lives all the time. So whether you open up to them or you don't open up to them, they'll know by your mood, or they'll know that something's up. So when they hear it in a song, they're like, "Oh, so that's what was wrong with you that week."
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah. So they're the one kind of people I never really too thrown by it.
And you've kind of staying on the songwriting. You mentioned in the past that you've experienced where you've had a dream about a song and then you wake up and you write it, or you missed it. You have a song in your dream and you missed it. Can you tell me
Yeah.
about experiences like that you've had? Because that's like profound creativity. That's something I've never
Um.
heard.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's just a total dream and I woke up and I've dreamt the whole thing, but I've felt like I've had big songs in my head while I'm asleep, and then I'm like, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, shit, I need to record that. And then I'm like, what was it again? I'm trying. I've almost tried to go back to sleep to see if I can get back to my dream to see what the song was. Sometimes you lose it. And then there's sometimes, honestly, I'll wake up and I won't even remember. But I'll have woke up in the middle of the night and I'll have got my phone and like hit record and I'll have sang like a melody into my phone. And then I look at my phone the next morning and it's like recording at 4:30 a.m. And I'm like,
What?
I've no idea what it is, but I've recorded a melody into my phone. Yeah, which is strange. I get, yeah, I think a lot of writers do kind of get it at such weird times. Could be like when you're in your, like sometimes I just get a melody in my head and I just like, I have to put it into my phone. I remember we had a song called Give Me Some of Your Love. Obviously we just played it live. We put it out with like a YouTube video. But I remember I was like in the car with Ed and we were coming back from rehearsals and I just got this thing and I was like, oh shit, I was like, just turn the radio off and everything. I was like, I need to just, and he kind of knows because he sees it happen to me all the time. But I
Yeah.
literally got my phone out and I was like, give me a lot and you know, but I sang the whole song start to finish just into my phone on a voice thing, and then I literally had to get home as quick as possible to sit in the piano and then just map it out. Literally, it was written in like 30 minutes then.
When you were recording that into your phone, were there words or was it kind of sounds and then you filled in the blanks?
Sometimes it's just sounds, and then it's like little words will come out. Like I'll go, so give me some of your love, baby, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Give me some of your love. So I'm like, but then I would go, because I've been going to school lately. You know, it's like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
school doesn't make sense. You know, I'm like, and you try and find like another word that like fills in there. Yeah, so it's like putting the kind of piece of the puzzle together. Then
And what's your favorite song you've written for Wild Youth that's out?
Next to you, our latest single,
Yeah, that's your favorite.
or I Can't Move On.
Okay, and do they change a lot?
No.
No, so you're next to you is like stuck.
I Can't Move On. Can't Move On has always been my favorite. And now Next to You, I think, is like my new favorite, or else it's definitely, maybe it's because it's newer, but it's definitely on par with Can't Move On for sure. I think, I think for me with Next to You, it's a very kind of like, I'm super proud of the song because I think it was a place and a style I always wanted to kind of get to, but I hadn't got to. And it was always part of a journey, but I felt like we kind of got to a sound that I always imagined Wild Youth would sound like, but Next to You.
And what was it like getting the opportunity to perform that recently on the Late Late?
It was really cool, yeah, because obviously it's weird. Sometimes as a kind of like to test and trial songs a little bit, sometimes I'll just like throw it in the set for like a tour
Yeah,
and see how people react to the song. And then you can always tell by a crowd's face which song is like kind of hit home a little bit more. But obviously we never got that opportunity with Next to You.
yeah.
And we never got to play it. We haven't got to play it live or anything, which is weird. So I think, yeah, to play it on the Late Late Show is really cool. Nice feeling,
Yeah.
you know,
What was
to
it
see
like?
even people in the studio dancing.
Yeah, that must be mental recording in the studio with no one there. Is it really weird?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird both ways. Um, but no, I actually didn't mind it at all. Little less nerve-wracking, probably.
And what was your first experience like on the Late Late compared to like that? Like the first time you went in the Late Late, were you like, oh my God, this is...
I'm trying to think of the first time. I think the first time you're totally in awe by the fact that you're even in the studio and you're like, oh my God, this is what it's like. But this is you're seeing all the different people that are going to be on the chair and you're like, oh, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
But I think the playing next to you was probably more nerve-wracking than any time, because when we had done it the first time, we did Can't Move On, I think. Yeah, it was Can't Move On. A long time no see, and like we had been doing shows all the time, and like we're performing all the time. So it was like you just got there and it was like, oh, we're just doing the song again. You know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
like we're just doing the song again, but it was kind of like we had done it for 12 nights previous, you know, to like crowds of hundreds of thousands of people. So it's like you get up and it's just part of like what you do. Whereas this time we hadn't played in a while.
Yeah.
It was a brand new song that we had never played live. And then also we had to talk after the performance. So it's like that's playing. So that was like the most nerve-wracking experience so far, I think.
And is that one of the kind of performances that as a band you think you'll never forget? Because this year has just been unforgettable as it is. But
yeah, I think it was just lovely, nice. You always remember the first time you kind of play a song live. So yeah, it's cool. That was the first time we did it.
Going back to when you guys played in Croke Park, opening for Westlife, what was that call or that email like, you know, when you found out or when you were asked to do it?
So crazy. It was like, because I remember our manager called me up and he was like, so I just got a call there. There's a potential that like we might be doing shows at Westlife Croke Park. And I was like, what? I was like, where? And he's like, Croke Park. I was like, and then, but like anything, like you try not to get overexcited until you literally see the artwork, because things can just change last minute. You can have your heart broken or your day made. So it's like, you try not get too emotionally invested in it. So I was like, oh, cool. It's like, do you not think that's cool? I was like, it is cool, but I just want to see the artwork. And then, then obviously when it all got confirmed, it was absolutely nuts. It's still like, it's kind of still even like a dream that it happened, you know, driving in and even walking to the stage and sound checking on that stage, even getting to see play that stage. My dad grew up around that area. So yeah, super emotional. It's our national stadium. Crazy emotional time. And then like one of the nights we did Longitude afterwards. I remember it's probably like the most rock and roll I've ever felt in my whole entire life, or we've all felt. It was like we played in Croke Park and then we were playing in Longitude 2 hours afterwards.
Oh,
so we were
closing.
We were closing one of the tents at Longitude. So obviously they were worried about traffic and stuff. So it's like, oh, we'll get you a police escort. So we were like,
oh my God.
So we came off stage in Croke Park, walked out the back into our tour bus, and then got a police escort the whole way across the city into Longitude to the back of the tent to literally go on stage at Longitude.
That must have been a very special feeling.
It was.
What's it like performing two gigs in one night? Because are the nerves there for the second one?
Yeah, the nerves are always there. They never go away from me anyway. It's so cool because it's like, especially when you're doing a support show, you can only play like 6 or 7 songs. So you're kind of like getting into it, and then it's like you finish. You're like, we always just want to keep playing more. Even when we do our own shows, we're like, we wish we could play more. We just don't have enough songs. But yeah, it was lovely to actually go and then get in the bus and chill and then go back up on stage.
Yeah,
there is a kind of weird thing where it's like, because you hit such a high and then you hit a bit of a low and you have to try and get yourself back up to that high of like the energy to go back on, if you get me.
And on the kind of performance aspect and live performance, what would be a live performance that you saw before Wild Youth and you're like, that's what I want to do? Was there ever a gig you're at and you're like, that is what I want to do?
Imagine Dragons. We went to see them in the Three Arena. The noise and the power from their show was amazing. I think the 1975, but I think anyone who's seen them will say that they're probably one of the most inspiring live bands that they've ever seen. I actually saw, and don't judge me on this because it was before some of his recent albums,
Okay.
but a friend of mine brought me to see Bruno Mars. And I'm not saying don't judge me, but I didn't want to go. I think because I was like, I can't remember, I was tired or something. And I was a Bruno Mars fan. I love like just the way you are and everything. But I can't remember, I wasn't going to go. And then she was like, just come, like just go. And I remember I went and it was like one of the best shows. I've never been so blown away by a performer in my whole entire life. Bruno Mars. And then I saw Tame Impala in the Olympia Theatre, and that changed my life forever, I think.
Tame Impala. And what was it like to then go on to sell out the same venue you saw Tame Impala in, which is of course the Olympia?
Like, I think that was always my dream, being in a band, was just to sell out the Olympia. So yeah, we did it 3 times last year
It's mental.
on our own shows. And I thought first time we played the Olympia, we supported someone. I was like, my life is made. I got to stand on the stage in the Olympia. I've done it. And then to go and sell your own shows out there is just, it's the craziest feeling, because putting on your own show sometimes is like the weirdest thing, because it's like kind of in your head you're like, beyond my family and friends, who's going to buy tickets? Like, who's going to fill all these seats? Do you know what I mean? It's
I
like,
never thought
who's
of it
going
like
to
that.
come and you're like, who are these people that I might not know that might know us, that love our music enough to go and buy tickets and go and fill out all these seats? But thank God there is enough of them. And yeah, we did it. That was a super proud moment, I think, for us, for all our families. Yeah, it was really, really cool.
Yeah. And on like kind of Tame Impala and 1975 and even like The Script, these are bands that you've been compared to. Is that a weird thing to hear when you're compared, you know, in articles and stuff to those guys? And like,
Yeah.
how does that feel?
I don't know if it's generous. It's obviously amazing. I think, you know, there's no denying the fact that we are big fans of 1975. We're huge fans of Tame Impala. We like The Script pretty much inspired us to go and buy leather jackets and pretend we're in a band. So yeah, it's obviously amazing to hear all those things. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. I don't know if we'll ever be as good as the 1975 Tame Impala, The Script, but to be even compared to them and spoke about in the same sentence is a very lovely thing to hear.
Just touching on something that happened to you when you were a kid, you sustained quite an injury a few years ago that maybe could have been detrimental to the career you're in now. Do you want to talk about that for a sec, if that's okay?
It's a weird thing. It was I was just playing sports one day in school, and I can't remember, it's kind of like a blur, but basically I came off the pitch. I wasn't paying attention, and I kind of came off the pitch, but I was running. But like the hoarding on the side of the pitch, you know, like the steel bars
Yeah.
that would hold up the kind of like sponsorship signs on like the side of a pitch.
Yeah.
But I pretty much ran into that. And it was like, I ran into it, but I ran at such a speed that I kind of like wrapped around it and kind of came back. I was lying on the ground and I was like, shit, I think I've broken my ribs. Because that sort of felt like it was like this immediate pain
Yeah.
that I'd never experienced my whole entire life. It was like I'd been stabbed. And obviously like everyone was suddenly kind of around me in a panic, because I think it was a lot more extreme than I thought it had been. And then obviously went to hospital and I was in the waiting room, and suddenly they took an x-ray, and then within minutes it was like panic. Like they started rushing me into a room and I didn't know what was going on, but basically my whole insides of my stomach had been separated
Holy shit.
and like pretty much opened. Like we're all open. I was losing blood, like crazy amounts of blood every second. And then yeah, kind of went under surgery that like the doctor had never performed in his whole entire life. He said it was one of the rarest accidents he's ever seen. He was on the phone to America for the whole operation, being like, what do I do next?
Jesus.
Um, and did it, and then kind of came out, and he said to my parents, he's like, I have no idea if that worked or not. Yeah, I was in intensive care then for about 5 weeks, and then yeah, came out, thankfully. And yeah, they saved my life, so very blessed.
That's insane.
Dr. Kevin O'Malley, thank you very much for saving my life.
That's mad. And being in intensive care for that long, do you remember anything from that 5 week period?
Yeah, I remember people who visited me. I never forgot the people who visited me. And I remember this girl I actually had a crush on at the time, and she texted me. I was like, it was all
Nice.
worth it.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, people visiting me. I remember I was like super, super skinny, like 5.5, 6 stone, maybe.
Wow. That's long.
Yeah, I was literally like skin and bones. And yeah, I remember the pain. I had to pretty much relearn how to walk. Because like that's where all your kind of balance and everything comes from, is your core.
Yeah.
So like my core had just been so damaged that like my balance was totally off. And yeah, I remember waking up and having people around me and everyone just being so delighted that I'd woken up, like people were crying and stuff, and I was like,
What happened?
what had happened? I just got wheeled into a room and now there's people crying that have woken up. Like, how bad was this accident? And then like it was only like weeks later I actually got told how bad it was, that they didn't know if I was going to wake up or not.
Jeez. And do you still feel any effects from that now? Is there any?
No, not really. I have a big scar on my stomach, and I think if someone was to punch me in the stomach, it would definitely be very painful. But no effects, touch wood.
Yeah.
To date, thankfully.
And on kind of the topic of, a girl texting you, when you're in hospital at the time and you're kind of delighted, have you ever got texts about songs from exes or love interests being like, is this about me?
No,
No.
actually, no, but I've definitely, like, after a certain point, there's certain like girls will be like, who was that song about? You know what I mean? It's like, oh God. No, I remember my current girlfriend, I actually showed her a new song. And it was like all these things, and kind of subconsciously, it was like stuff I would probably say to her.
Yeah.
Like she was like, who's this about? Like who would you like, you bullshitter. Like who would you said this stuff before to, you know what I mean? That you're now
Yeah,
saying to me.
it's just about you, don't it?
But it was actually, I told her it was about the things I longed for in my life, as opposed to something that I had in my life already. So that's probably why it made sense that that's the way I spoke to her. Yes, that was a relief for her, I think. But no, I think people I've written songs about would know that the songs are about them, I think. So I don't know if they would need to text me to ask
Yeah.
me.
Do you ever think about that when you're performing them? Like when I listen to, like, again on like Long Time No See, like that, isn't that about an interaction you had with kind of someone you hadn't seen in a while, like an ex?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can only imagine her going home and telling her mom and dad over a cup of tea, you won't believe who I bumped into today, and then it's just on the radio in like 6 months.
I know it is quite a weird thing. Yeah, or I always think of like, because every song is from like a personal experience, so it's like things that have happened, and then if something's happened that is quite personal, but then to make the song personal, you have to write about personal experiences. But then for the other person, they're like at home going, what the hell? I can't believe he's gone and written a song about that. But yeah, I suppose that's just what songwriting is. And if you go out with a songwriter or you date a musician, I think you have to be prepared. Yeah, you have to be prepared with the fact that there might be a song written about you, and that means that they cared about you a lot. So it's a compliment, I think.
Yeah, well, definitely a compliment to have a song written about you, you know, especially
Yeah.
with you guys hitting the stride you've hit. Like, it's a pretty good flex if you walk into, you know, a pub and be like, well, Wild Youth didn't write a song about you, so come back to me when
People
that
be like, who? Yeah.
You're quite good friends with Mr. Niall Horan. I kind of see you guys on social media having a bit of banter and chatting.
Yeah.
Have you ever written with him? Have you ever sat down?
Yeah, we write. Yeah, we write sometimes. Kind of actually, just kind of never with too much pressure on it. Never to be like, let's write a song. But sometimes we'll just be like, in his front room, he's got a beautiful piano. I'll play the piano, and he might start singing a melody, or I might sing a melody, and we just bounce around ideas. He's always playing the guitar, and I'm always playing the piano. So it's kind of like we always just, even if we're like watching TV, we're sitting there and we're going, "What do you think of this? What do you think of this?" And like bounce ideas back and forth. But yeah.
And would he be a bit of a mentor to you sometimes? You know, with his experience in a band.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's in one of the biggest bands that ever existed, as well as being like an insanely popular and huge selling solo artist. So I think he's not just done it once, he's done it twice. He's very tuned in, he's super smart, and he's always very kind and caring with his time and advice. And I mean, if you have someone there who's like a best friend and you can talk to on the other end of a phone, who's played stadiums all over the world, who's experienced
So rare.
every single thing in the world, like, you know, from playing in smaller venues to playing the biggest venues in the world, to like playing 320 shows in a year, to like how to deal with if you go on tours, how to keep healthy, how to do this, you know, and how to maintain, or how to try and perform, or, you know, all those little things. And even he's been in studios and written some of the best songs that have kind of ever been around and that will be around for the rest of our lives. So yeah, of course, if I have songs, I'd send them to him or play them to him. And I actually kind of wrote All or Nothing in his apartment. One time I was just like playing on the guitar. Yeah, just late at night, and he was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "I don't know, it's just an idea I'm messing with." He's like, "That's really good, you should keep writing that." So I was like, "Okay, grand." I was like, "I have to finish it."
Yeah, it was a mission.
Yeah.
Does he ever say to you, you know, Conor, can I be in Wild Youth? I'm kind of out of a job.
No, I think he's absolutely fine.
Yeah, he's
I think
good.
he's like, he's a worldwide selling solo artist. So I think he's all right.
I saw on one of your social media profiles in very recently, that there's a Wild Youth room in the Morrison Hotel.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. How did that come to fruition? Like, it's such an abstract way of representing the band, but it's so cool as well.
Morrison actually have a lot of rooms dedicated to Irish musicians. So they've one that's like a Dermot Kelly room and a Hosier room and a U2 room. And then, yeah, they just wanted to add us to the list of artists that they had on the wall, or that they had. And basically what they do is they get a room and they get like a quote or like lyrics from one of the songs and they put it on the wall. And it then becomes to like Wild Youth room. So I suppose it's kind of a cool idea if you have, maybe like, if I was a fan of a band and I was going to a city where they're from and I could stay in like the like Tame Impala room in Australia, like I'd probably want to check it out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a very cool idea.
Yeah.
On music videos, I saw that you tweeted about a week and a half ago that you shot 2 music videos in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any spoilers or teasers as to what we can see in those videos? Are they going to be like Long Time No See and All or Nothing, or
no, we're in them. It's all us.
Because you did make cameos in All or Nothing, you know. I think it was in the stadium.
Yeah, no, these are all us. some more kind of like next to you vibes, dancing, some mesh tops and toplessness. Yeah, just fun.
Just
Live
fun.
performance in one of them. Yeah, I think I think they're going to turn out really cool. It was
Um,
very full on recording 2 music videos in 1 week, but it was definitely worth it and it was fun.
is it weird recording stuff during this time, like with COVID and stuff like that? What, is it a different atmosphere, or is it kind of you guys keeping the
Um,
same energy?
it is kind of weird, I suppose. Like when you're like the excitement about those things is you're together and there's like a team and like you'll do something, then afterwards you can all go for a drink and you celebrate, or it's like, whereas this is very like everyone's here to work and we just need to get this done, so everyone keep their distance and be safe, and let's just like, you've got your mask on and you take it off and you go film, and it's like mask back on and you go and you sit away, even like from the guys. Yeah, which can be strange, but at least you get to do something, could be worse sitting at home doing nothing.
Yeah, that's true. And when all this stuff kind of calms down, whenever it does calm down, and you guys can go back on the road, when can we expect? I suppose when is maybe very vague, but what and when can we expect to see Wild Youth back on the road, back touring?
I don't know. I don't think we want to commit to anything yet because it's just impossible to tell. So we just keep trying to gauge when things will be safe to do so, to perform again, and keep an ear to the ground and just seeing if we can get kind of any insider information as to when people think even tours will be back. And yeah, because I just don't want to do the thing we put shows on sale and people buy tickets and people book rooms and then it's like they have to cancel it and they might not get deposits back, and
Yeah,
it's hard enough. So I just want to be certain that when we do it, that it'll be okay to do it, and then when people can commit to going, that they'll still be able to come. Yeah. So I don't know, but we'll, as soon as we can, we'll
you're
be
gonna
out
do it.
playing, and we'll, yeah, hopefully not stop playing for about 2 years to make up for all this lost time.
Yeah, and will a Wild Youth show look very different after lockdown? You know, with the new album coming out. Is
Yeah.
there what is there any teaser as to how what that difference is going to be, or how it's going to be your own,
It's like
even more
it's
so?
gonna be like going to a 1980s roller disco in New York.
Mad. That's a niche.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
That's
cool.
just gonna be like.
Is that the tone that you've gone for with the new album, or is that just how it's feeling when you're playing the songs?
No, I think yeah, maybe it's kind of a hint of the tone, but also not too much. It's how I'm feeling. It's where the artwork is going. It's where the vibe is going. Yeah. So I think like floral hippie 1980s roller disco in New York, and that's what our live shows will look like.
And is there any inside information as to when we can see the album, when that's going to
In the
come?
new year, or an album, we'll do an EP first. Maybe that'll be like March or April, and then an album. Probably going to start writing it soon. So hopefully, maybe if an EP came out in March, it'd be by the end of the summer. I just put an album out. I have a lot to write about, so hopefully, we can get it done
Okay,
very soon.
lots of stuff to be written about.
Yeah.
And I saw you tweet out that you have kind of a favorite lyric, but it's not out yet. And it's I just wish my mama could have met you. And not sure you can finish it off. Why
I
is
just wish my mama could have met you because I know that she'd love everything about you. Yeah.
yeah? What's that about? I know it's very
Um,
obvious, but is there a deeper?
yeah, well, my mom obviously passed away.
Yeah,
And she was like a massive part of my life. She was like my best friend, and um, I've now very luckily fallen in love with this amazing girl who is an incredible person. And I just kind of was writing one night in my apartment, and I just came up with this lyric, and I thought it was a lovely well, I thought it was lovely, but it was like, I don't know. I wanted to tell her because I talk about my mom all the time,
yeah,
but I didn't want to be like, just say it in a way. And I just wanted to tell her that I know that if my mom had ever got the chance to meet her, that she would love her. and she would love everything about her because she makes me so happy, and my mom, like, I was like my mom's pet. So, but yeah, that was kind of sentiment, and it was kind of just a lyric that always stuck with me. I'm not sure if it's a song that I'll finish, but it's probably one of my favorite lyrics I've written. Yeah, finding a girlfriend. I've been writing some soppy lyrics,
Yeah. But
some romantic stuff. We're even gonna bring a ballad out. Who would have thought it?
you're a changed man.
I know.
Do you write about your mum a lot?
Not really. No, never. Actually,
No.
I'm trying to think. No, never. I always find it's such a difficult song to write because I feel like I'll never perfect it, so I try and stay away from it sometimes.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
there any memory or any one moment when you were whether it was in performance or just a band memory that you kind of were like, I wish you could have been here to see that?
Yeah, I first sold out Olympia because she was the one that said it to me. I remember when I was in a band and I was like, people used to, I'd be like, people slag me because I play music and, because I'm in a band. And she was like, don't worry, they won't be slagging you when you sell out the Olympia. And I remember she said that with me and it always stuck with me. So when we did sell it out, I was like, Jesus, she told me that like so many years ago when everyone used to laugh at me because I was trying to play music or whatever. Yeah, that I think that was a super emotional night probably for me. But yeah, emotional maybe in a good way.
Yeah.
It's inspiring.
It inspires you to do better, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of is that ingrained in everything you do now with the band? Like in hard times, is that like a really kind of motivating thing to know that your mum would be saying, go for it? Like,
yeah, 100%. I think, on certain days, especially like at the very start when you're like, we're not getting a break, is this like, what am I doing? To just know that like I had her belief. She was always so proud of me when I played music, so it's like it drives me on all the time, and to know that I kind of had her backing always just gave me the belief to kind of go and to try and do it.
Yeah. Do you still feel the kind of, especially with Irish people, they can be so begrudging, to people, to talent of their own? I've heard it from many artists. Do you still feel that sometimes with the band? In comparison to when your mum said to you they won't be slagging you when you're selling out the.
Yeah,
feel
I
that
mean,
sometimes?
like, of course, you'll always get some stuff online, but like that's just is what it is. It's almost part of the territory now. You'll get someone, passing comments, maybe like people could be like, I hate this song or this band is shit or my clothes or something, you know what I mean? You get kind of comments like that, but I mean, I think everyone gets that. If you put yourself out there and you kind of put yourself in public forums and you put yourself in a public kind of place, you have to leave yourself open to kind of get that stuff.
Yeah, and it's great that you don't really let it get to you or your music, and that's why you guys have been so successful over the last few years, and I have to commend you for that. But what can we see in the next few years? Let's say the next year and a half. What can Wild Youth fans expect to see from the band?
I would hope that by maybe, and sometimes I'm too optimistic. My manager, I'm sure if he heard this, would be like, "What are you talking? What planet do you live on?" An EP, an album out maybe. I've like for touring to be a thing again, and just to be announcing shows and doing shows all the time and just putting out new music constantly.
Well, I look forward to new music and I look forward to you guys getting back on the road. Thank you very much, Conor, for coming on this week. And thank you very much for everyone at home listening and following along the podcast every week. Next week is week 4 of the podcast and I have a very special guest. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but he is a drummer for a very, very popular Irish singer-songwriter. If you think you know who I'm talking about, go ahead and comment who you think it is on the Backchat Podcast last Instagram posts. And the Instagram is at back.chatpodcast. Have a look at us on Facebook and keep streaming. But until then, see ya and have a good one.